Assalamu alaikum. Amir Malik, where are you? It's my twin's first stories in the park, so sorry. Today's stories in the park really was meant to be 2 or 3 talks, but given the circumstances, the timing, council's insistence on us leaving at roughly about 9:30 or sometimes even exactly at 9:30, depends who you speak to there. So we have to keep our talks short. So what we've decided to do was, maybe even bring it forward an hour before Maghrib. But alhamdulillah, I'm thinking the best of our brothers and sisters that Maghrib is so important. They want to make sure that prayer is done before they come, so they may come after. But stories and Islam truly are inseparable. In fact, there was a role that poets, storytellers would play in Islamic society, and that was essentially modern day journalism. And they would pass the news through stories and beautiful poetry. And that wasn't just restricted to the Arabic language. That was in Urdu, in Farsi, definitely in Turkish. So stories in Islam, especially within Islamic history, are inseparable. And many, many, many stories have made their way to us. We just need to find them. Some of those stories are stories that are quite fantastical, like the 1001 Arabian Nights, where you've got Ala ad-Din and Sinbad and the rest of it, and Ali Baba. And in other stories are actual depictions of true events. And other stories are holy stories, and they're in the Quran. So Allah Azza wa Jal has actually picked particular stories to tell you. In fact, they say about 50% of the Quran is stories. There are surah in the Quran, chapters in the Quran, that are actually called stories or news. And there are stories all over the Quran. In fact, in Surah Yusuf, Allah Azza wa Jal says, نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ أَحْسَنَ الْقَصَصِ, that we will narrate to you the best of stories, the best story. Now when Jabir asked the Prophet ﷺ, they were sitting down, he said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, tell us a story. Now Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he can't make anything up. So he can't sit down and say, well, once there was Layla, and he can't do that. Because he would literally speak through inspiration. So Allah Azza wa Jal gave him the story of Yusuf to narrate to the Sahabi. And that's how we actually get Surah Yusuf. And the most beautiful thing about Surah Yusuf is it is a surah from beginning to end in reference only to Yusuf alayhi salam and his story. You will never find references to Yusuf outside Surah Yusuf. So that is the best of stories. نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ أَحْسَنَ الْقَصَصِ. But also, not just in the Quran, you get the story of the 1001 Arabian Nights, where the beautiful Shahrazad was imprisoned by the king, the Shah. And she was imprisoned because she was so beautiful, he would not let her go. In fact, he wanted her for himself. And if not, if she didn't accept, he would kill her. And to keep herself alive, every night, when he came to her, she would say to him a story. She would narrate to him a story. And the story was so beautiful and so fantastical that he could not bring himself to harm her because he needed the next day to finish the story. And this went on for 1001 nights, which is where we get 1001 Arabian Nights. Basically, it was Shahrazad making up the stories during the day to postpone ultimately what would be her death. So she would come up with Ala-ad-Din, and she would come up with Ali Baba, and she would come up with Sinbad. And the Shah was so amazed at the stories that he couldn't bring himself to harm her. He needed the stories to finish, so she kept herself alive for 1,001 nights. But it doesn't stop there. Layla and Majnun. Now, Layla and Majnun, many nations claim the story, from Turks to I think even Hindus to an extent. Definitely the Persians, the Arabs claim the story because it's such a central piece of literature to all these cultures. Layla Majnun. It's such a beautiful love story that Eric Clapton actually wrote music, and the song Layla is actually based on the story of Layla Majnun. He read it from Nizami's version of Layla Majnun. And the song Layla actually came from Layla Majnun. And Layla, she got me on my knees, Layla, that kind of stuff all came from the craziness of Majnun. Now in the Arabic literature, that person actually became Majnun. His name's not Majnun. His name is Qais. And he became Majnun. He became insane, crazy in love, basically. So it's Layla and the crazed one. But again, it doesn't stop there. So the depth of the world that you were born into or have come into is phenomenal. And wallahi, it's for you to look into that depth and find the stories that touch your heart. And those stories may be true stories. For example, could be the story of Zainab bint Muhammad alayhi salam, which is a fantastic story. Or Khadija, Allahumma rad anha. Or Zubayr ibn al-Awwam, Allahumma rad anhu. And so on and so forth and so on and so forth. And some stories have actually happened in modern history. In fact, I recall the one where in Turkey there was one man who actually escaped an asylum for spastics, and he escaped in the morning, just probably about maybe 3 or 4 minutes before Fajr. And as he was walking through the city, it was quiet, and the Muazzin made his way up to the minaret, and he put his hand to his ear, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And the spastic was saying that, Allah. And the Muazzin, Allah, is just continuing on and on and on and on. And when it finished, he was upset. How could this beautiful voice stop the adhan? He doesn't know it's adhan. So he made his way up to the minaret with a knife. And as the Muazzin was going down the minaret, he faced him on the stairs. He said, go up. Get back up. He said, why? He goes, get back up and do the adhan again. He said, Mal, we just finished the adhan. It's time for salah. He goes, get up and do it again. So this guy, obviously to save himself, there's someone there with a knife. He said, all right, I'll go up. So he goes up and again, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And this guy was just sitting there, Allah, oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. When it finished, again. He said, yeah, again. So, okay, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. When it finished, La ilaha illallah, again. 10, 15 times, ya haram. Barri'u, he said, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Again. And he thought, what am I going to do? Obviously my people, they're not coming out of their beds, they're still asleep. Nobody's recognizing that this Muazzin's gone crazy. He's done about 500 adhans. So he said the only way to get these people up was to actually change the words, because obviously this guy doesn't get, it's the sound that kills him. So he said, again. He's all right, again. Oh my people, please get up, there's a man with a knife. Oh my people, please wake up, there's a man with a knife. Until they actually found the guy and they actually rescued the imam. This is actually a true story. So, even in reality, you think, come on, really, did that happen? Yeah, true, it actually happened. But the Sahaba weren't, I suppose, excluded or or didn't go through such humorous moments as well. Once Nu'man, Allah anhu, he was charged by Abu Bakr, Allah anhu, to actually look after the camels. And another Sahabi was charged with looking after the food. And they were sent in a particular direction. And Nu'man got hungry. So we said to the Sahabi, he said to him, look, seriously, let's sit down and we can have something to eat. And the Sahabi said, no, not yet, we keep going. And Nu'man said, really, I'm hungry now, this is becoming a problem. They said, yeah, we'll keep going, we've got to save the food, we've only got a small portion, blah, 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 we've got to be economical and all the rest of it. And Nu'man wouldn't have a bar of it. Absolutely not, I'm hungry, I want to eat. Like Sean, when he wants to eat, he's got to eat. So, Nu'man was very upset. He said, all right, we won't eat. Are you sure you're not going to feed me? He said, yeah. Are you sure? He said, yeah, I'm not going to. Okay, fine. So Nu'man went for a walk and then he found some Bedouins in the desert. And he said, and he found the Bedouins and he said, look, would you like to buy a slave from me? And the Bedouins said, yeah, if it's for a good price, why not? And he said, yeah, but it'll be a good price. So believe me, you like the price. I don't want to take this particular slave of mine all the way to where I'm going. Plus we have food and supplies and all the rest of it, and I'd rather just disperse of that and travel lightly. So yeah, if you want to take, actually don't worry now, don't take him. They said, why? He said, because this guy actually, he's a little bit crazy, he thinks he's free. He said, what do you mean? Yeah, don't worry, it's too complicated, he thinks he's free, you're going to think he's free, and before you know it, we're going to get into a mess, and it's easier for me to just leave him with me, don't worry about it. I was going to give him to you as for a bargain, but don't worry about it. They said, no, seriously, show us, and we'll look at him. If he's got good strength and he's of good age, and etc., we'll take him despite his craziness. That's okay. He can say he's free all day. He said, are you sure? He goes, yeah. You're not going to change your mind. They said, no. We'll take him. We'll pay for him, good money, and we'll take him. So they said, all right, come, I'll show you. So they came back, and there was a Sahabi guarding the food to make sure Nu'man doesn't touch it. He said, Wallahi, you're not coming next to the food. He said, I don't want the food. It's okay, man. I don't want the food, it's all right. I'm not going to eat. I'm sit away. And he looked at the Bedouins and said, there he is. And the Bedouins came, they grabbed the Sahabi and he said, what are you doing? They said, we're taking you, we just bought you. He said, no, I'm not a slave, I'm a free man. He goes, yeah, the guy told us. He told us you're a free man, it's all right. So they actually took the Sahabi. And Nu'man sat there and started eating. When Abu Bakr found out what Nu'man had did, he actually laughed quite profusely and said, let's go get the Sahabi. So they actually went and got the Sahabi back. So even the Sahabi themselves would play tricks on each other.